My name is Chris Schaefer. I'm joined with a very special guest today. Her name is Marie Walton, and she is a Johnny Appleseed Park naturalist. Welcome, Marie.
Thank you so much.
All right. Well, I will say that Johnny Appleseed is vital to our communities. Not only do they keep everything looking beautiful, they promote exercise, well-being, and also education for the young and the old. And speaking of education, you have brought something with us today. What are we going to learn about?
Oh, today I want to talk about overwintering cocoons. So it's getting colder right now. We've had some of our first frosts this week. The leaves are changing, and that means that the animals are changing as well. And one of my favorite things to think about is how animals overwinter, how they last through the winter while we're all bundled up inside. So some animals will migrate. We've talked about how the monarch butterfly migrates and then overwinters in Mexico as a butterfly. But most of the butterflies and moths around here that stick around are gonna be eggs or cocoons over the winter. So some of us may already be familiar with the butterfly life cycle. They start out as an egg and then they're born into a caterpillar. They hatch from their eggs, and caterpillars go through 5 instars, most species, and that's just where they're eating a lot. We all know that caterpillars are very hungry, so they eat a lot of leaves, and they grow and shed their skin and grow and shed their skin 5 times. And each of these molts is called an instar.
Okay.
They can look very different each time, as you can see here. So if you ever find a caterpillar in your yard, it may be better to just wait until it becomes a moth to try and identify it, because they can go through a lot of changes. And then when it reaches the 5th instar, it's super fat, it's ready to become a pupa. And most of them will spin a little button of silk, and then when they shed their final skin, they have this chrysalis underneath. And a lot of butterflies will overwinter just as the chrysalis, but moths will go the extra mile, and they kind of weave a sleeping bag of silk and leaves around themselves, which helps them to camouflage and to insulate throughout the winter. And they go through something called diapause, which is where they're in kind of a stage of arrested development through the wintertime. So they're not growing, they're just kind of waiting for the conditions to be right. They're sensing light that changes, maybe getting more light throughout the day. They're sensing temperature changes, and that will tell them that it's time to complete their life cycle in the spring and emerge as a butterfly or a moth. So I've brought some special guests today.
Yes, I see that.
A few weeks ago, Dan brought in the Io moth caterpillars. They were green and they had those venomous spikes. Oh. But I can hold them today because today they are cocoons.
All right.
So here it's using a leaf that it's incorporated into the cocoon, and this part right here is the silk that it spun. And so sometimes it's good in the fall to leave piles of leaves. I know everybody wants to rake their leaves out in the street, but sometimes it's good to leave a little bit, maybe in a garden or just underneath one tree, because these important pollinators are using them for their life cycle. So here's one that used an oak leaf. Here is another one that used a couple different leaves, and you can see where it spun the silk, but also where it used the leaves, which is really exciting. So this is what it looks like inside.
Okay.
So the cocoon is just a sleeping bag around it, but inside there's the pupa, which is that black part, and you can even see the final skin that it shed.
Wow.
Still in the cocoon.
And I think you have one that's maybe a little bit wiggly today, too.
Yes, I have a little different one. So this one doesn't use leaves. This is a 5-dotted sphinx moth, and it will bury underground in the dirt to hide from predators while it's a cocoon. And as I said, while they're in diapause, even though they're waiting for the right conditions to come out, they're still sensing their environment. And this one can sense even like a light touch. Come on, little guy.
Yeah, I did see him moving around a little bit earlier. Did you name him?
I did not name them.
You did not name him. Let's name him Fred. I think that's a good name for him.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we want to thank Marie Walton from the fabulous Johnny Appleseed Park District, and we look forward to seeing you in just a few moments.